Well, good evening to you, race fans, and welcome back to the Alliance Sim Racing Supercar Championship. This is Season 6, and this is Round 8, proudly supported by Solar Guard St. Gobain. Tonight, we touch down in the Styrian Mountains of Spielberg at the Red Bull Ring. It's a circuit that looks relatively simple on paper, but punishes every single mistake, and that is just amplified when you go around here in a Gen 3 supercar. We've got long straights, we've got massive braking zones. This place is exactly the sort of setup that drivers dream of for V8 supercar racing, and it's one that will no doubt see a whole bunch of very, very brave overtaking attempts here tonight. My name is Jared Cole. Welcome on back if you are rejoining us, and if it's your first time with us tonight, great to have you along for what promises to be another fantastic night of racing. And in the Simple Racing broadcast booth, I am joined by none other than Josh Harris. Josh, great to have you back with us once again for what will be your final week of commentary for this season. What a place to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Jared. Hello to everyone at home. What a really cool track. It's actually the kind of track you look at it on paper, Jared, and it's not particularly exciting, and even, you know, you cut some practice laps and it's a little underwhelming. But one thing that everyone who races at the Red Bull Ring will tell you is that it just produces absolutely fantastic racing, and it's just got so many corners on it that really are conducive to good quality racing. Long straights, hard stops, that's, you know, I've said it a million times, and that is really what leads to really good racing. To your other point, Jared, it probably is, well, no, it definitely is my last week in the booth for this season, and potentially, you know, my last week for good. I've got a couple of other things that will be up and running next year that I need to give a little bit of attention. I've got a bit of a change going on with my work, you know, circumstances. So a huge thank you to you, mate, for letting me come and chat to everybody, and a really big thank you to everyone at home for putting up with me for a couple of hours on a lot of Tuesdays this year. I've had an absolute ball. I've learnt heaps. It's been a really fun opportunity. So thank you very much for having me along, and I can't wait to really have a good fun night tonight.
Hard to believe that I don't pay enough on a Tuesday night to not have a day job, hey? Weird.
I wish you did. I wish you did.
Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice, mate? No, look, it's a great way to wrap it up, I reckon, for you, at least for this season. We've still got another couple of rounds after tonight to look at the race format here this evening. 2 races, a sprint race to open it up with a 12-lap sprint around the Red Bull Ring, followed by 35 laps in race 2, including 2 compulsory pit stops and a reverse top 10 grid. The usual fuel restriction of 60% does apply. And for those who haven't been to the Red Bull Ring before, Josh, and I don't know what they've been doing with themselves, honestly, but we do, of course, have the hot lap put on, as always, by Simon Haynes in the Solar Guard Sanka Bane car. Talk us through just what goes on around this place.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a reasonably short, sharp front straight. But as you can see here, huge uphill braking zone into turn 1. So you can really get in there late. It's a really tricky corner. Miss that sausage curve on the inside, also miss the one on the outside. It is a more challenging first turn than you might imagine, but plenty of runoff out wide if you need to use it. And then this great big long run all the way up to the tightest corner on the track. Once again, uphill braking zone. Lots of different lines that you can take through this corner, Jared, but as you can see there, just a little pinch right in the middle of the apex there really promotes some wheel spin on the way out. And then once again, we're into another long run with another big stop. This one, though, downhill, very challenging to get the car pulled up, and an opening radius corner, so you want to make sure that you get into this apex and get into the throttle early. Normally short shifting through here, Jared, to minimise wheel spin, keep the car moving straight. And then we move into the only left-handers on the track, reasonably flowing, and then down this hill, a really short little run. Sometimes you go up a gear, sometimes you don't. It just depends on, you know, the run that you get and the tyre quality. And then these 2 corners here, round to the left and then back to the right. The Supercar wants to wheel spin and be sideways the whole time, up over a bit of a crest, and a really challenging final complex of corners to get through. A little more open here at the second last corner, but then this last one, really funny corner, has a big dip at the apex, and you can really attack it hard. Very, very easy, Jared. You'll slow down on the outside there. That is a lap of the Red Bull Ring. It happens very quickly. There is a little bit of room there to have a couple of rests, but importantly, a number of really good quality overtaking opportunities.
Yeah, it's a fun one, isn't it? It's kind of got all of the strongest points of a supercar and all of the weakest. Those hard braking zones into tight turns as we've said a couple of times already, offer amazing opportunities for an overtake. And then you've got those long sweepers that are going to absolutely chew tyres here tonight. So it'll be really interesting to see how the drivers approach it. The championship standings as we get into this third to last round, Wayne Walker out in front is looking, again, he looks like he's pretty well set up at this point. It's going to take something pretty special to reel him back in from there. Dean Logsdale and Matt Vanderkraan are going to battle it out for the rest of the podium. Don't count Mark Poynton out just yet, though he's not too far back from those two, so still potentially a chance for him to find himself on one of those championship podium steps. As we move back through the list from there, Jamie Dyke, Luke Orman, Jason Bentz and Andrew Rushworth all fairly close together in what is a second four battle, essentially. And we will have, of course, a bit more of a battle going on down through the rest of the field as well, but probably a little bit more spaced out until you get down to the likes of Ken Latta, Joel Ostervale, Nick Clifton around that 12th, 13th, 14th. So there's still plenty to play for. The drivers are out on track right now, just finishing up their standings, and once again we need to just do a bit of a reset on our overlay because reasons. And anyway, we'll get that sorted. But it's really it is one of those tracks that I love seeing supercars around. It's a real shame that the real world supercars, can't just jet on over to Austria and get onto this track, because I reckon it'd be a hell of a lot of fun to watch.
Look, it takes long enough to get them to New Zealand on a slow boat, Jared, and I think that the fact that we don't slow boat them to Austria is actually probably a good thing. But you're right, it would be very exciting to see. It's such a good track. It's a little different, but that's kind of what makes it so good, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely agree. It's I just that corner right there on screen right now, that hard brake into that right hand, it's such a tight corner. That is one of the most difficult corners I think I've ever taken in any car, and it doesn't look like it should be, but the elevation change across it just it really can trip you up. I'm looking forward to seeing how this field handles it. We'll take a look at the grid for our opening sprint race. Ken Latta and Wayne Walker have qualified brilliantly, and of course the defending champion looking to continue his strong run and continue to bring in the points up front. Mark Poynton and Matt Vanderkraan behind them, then Jason Bentz and Sean Vandermeulen ahead of Jamie Dyke and Andrew Rushworth. Dean Logsdale and Phil Manuel make up the rest of your top 10. Damon Fisher and Jim Caperonis behind them, with Stephen Varga and Ryan Palmer on row 7. Then Craig Schulz and Chad Vigar ahead of Joel Ostervale and Brad Hayes. David Coleman and Mick Clifton rounding out your 20. Troy Sipple in his last race for the season qualifies 21st. For race number 1 tonight. James Hardy alongside him, Craig Rose and Andrew Johnston behind them, then Darren Walden and Ashley Hall ahead of David Logsdale and Rick Vigar. Todd Martin, the last on the grid. Brad Grant as the safety car pilot, very much hoping that he doesn't need to be involved. And a couple of drivers that didn't set times, Simon Farrington and Dave Galley, will be starting from what looks like a bit further back, I would suspect. So we will head on down to the track and get ready to go racing here for race number 1, and we'll have to see just what this track has in store. I'm expecting carnage at, if not turn 1, it's going to be turn 2 tonight, I reckon, Josh.
Let's just see, how things go. Hopefully these guys had enough carnage last week. I was neither racing nor commentating last week, Jared, but I did get a rundown on the highlights from my teammate Brian Palmer, it's just one of those things that hopefully that was enough, and they settle into this, because you're right. Turn 1 is conducive to some carnage, because you always think that you can get in there faster than maybe you can. However, there's plenty of runoff out to the left. They call it turn 3, but that hairpin, that next stop, that's not conducive to runoff or anything like that, Jared. If you get that braking marker wrong, you can arrive with a pretty significant speed difference, and you really can have some carnage. I hope that they don't. I would really love to see this, just run nicely for the duration. the track promotes really good racing. They don't need to do anything silly, if that makes sense. They can just race well. There's no need to clatter into each other.
But when has that ever stopped them? That's the other question.
It hasn't, and that's probably the concerning bit.
Oh dear! You did warn me before the race this evening that we needed to have a look at Ryan Palmer's camera at some point. All I can say, folks, is you're in for a treat when I decide to finally pull that one out onto the stream. Geez, that is something else. Let's get ready to go racing. 12 laps here at the Red Bull Ring lies ahead. The lights come up as the drivers get on the throttle, and we are underway. Ken Latta leads us away for the first time up towards turn one. Already a really good start from a couple of drivers making their way up the middle as the field spreads out on the way to turn one, and a few changes in position happening on the way through as we try and get ourselves sorted out. The pack just making their way through nice and carefully. Actually, I'm a little surprised. Oh no, I spoke too soon in the back. We've got one of the Team AJR cars off. That's David Logsdale, who has come a cropper at the back of the field. So Ryan Palmer now looks to the inside, gets a bit of a touch on Jim Caperonis and charges into that corner. That's going to be a bit of contact. Looks like Caperonis has recovered reasonably well, but that's going to hold the rest of the field up behind them also. And that'll mean that there's a bit of a gap starting to form out in front already. You can see that opening up. Jim Caperonis finds himself at the head of the second group though, and we continue on as we make our way towards the left-handers here at the Red Bull Ring. I'm hoping the drivers have remembered they have to turn left at some point, because otherwise this is going to get really awkward in a very big hurry. The field just starting to settle in now. A few battles going on. Jamie Dyke and Andrew Rushworth are side by side as they come through. The first left-hander's a big wiggle there from Rushworth as he drops back in behind Dyke, and they start to get into that famous supercar racing line. Joel Lustaval, it looks like, Andrew Rushworth off the back. Rushworth off the back.
Had a huge big wiggle in that transition, Jared, from the left-hander into the fast right. It's, even on a good set of warm tyres, these supercars just warm to burst into rear spin there. And it looks like that just caught Andrew Rushworth out, having a slide, and unfortunately overcorrected it and headed out to the right. Look, all in all, not a bad first lap, Jared. But what we really saw there was up at turn 3. With Ryan getting into the back of Jim Caperonis. It's such a big stop from sixth gear all the way back to low in second. These guys would have been in such a big gaggle of cars. I reckon they would have been back to first. It's such a big stop, and you've only got to apply the brakes a couple of meters later than the car in front, and you're going to end up into the back of them. I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan gets a penalty there, which is a shame, but
at least he's earned it,
at the end of the day, I was going to say, at the end of the day, it certainly looked to me like he was into the back of the car and pushing it around. So, it's good to see Jim Caperonis. To be fair, he's up in 8th. He certainly, didn't have too bad of a run out of it, but it's good these guys have settled into a rhythm, and now what we'll get to see is over 12 laps, we'll get to see these guys really break out into some battles, and the passes should continue to flow.
Yeah, we've got a few things to go back and look at as Palmer takes a big look up the inside of Chad Vargo. I don't think he's quite going to get the nose in there, so he's just trying to establish where he might have a bit of an opportunity in this battle group. This is the battle for 10th behind Phil Manuel, as Jamie Dyke starts to just extend away into the distance, and behind Vigar, Palmer and Schulz all locked right in there. You'd have to expect that Ryan Palmer's going to have a dive into turn 1. He does have a look, but doesn't send it just yet. Still just finding his rhythm. And look, while we're here, just for funsies, folks, it's hard to take him seriously as a race driver when he's geared up like that. I don't know what to say. Except let's move on from him very, very quickly if we can.
Yeah, that's bad. That is bad.
Stephen Varga now has a look up the inside. Bit of contact, big brake lock up there behind Brad Hayes as he tries to switch sides very, very late. And that's going to give Rushworth a bit of an opportunity to start to push on through behind the rest of the field, just starting to spread out now. Ken Latta maintaining his lead out in front ahead of Wayne Walker, then Mark Quinn and Matt Vanderkraan. So the 3 of the 4 heavy hitters in this championship right there at the front of this field. But this battle for 10th continues. Fisher's made his way past Phil Manuel. Chad Weigar still holding off Palmer and Schultz for the moment. But this group of 5 right in the thick of it. We've had a few issues along the way, and you know, a few things that we can probably take a moment to go back and have a bit of a look at as we get through. The big one for me, I think probably would be Troy Sipple, who's had a bit of a moment early on, and you can see already carrying damage, but just a huge clatter on into Darren Walden, and Simon Farrington comes through behind as well, and that is not a great start to your sprint race at all, especially not when tonight's going to be the last round that you actually do get up your sleeve here. So, you know, maybe a little bit more care needed. We've had a bit of an issue while we're looking away from that. It looks as though Phil Manuel, Ryan Palmer have actually come together in just the last turn. We'll go back and see if we can catch just what's happened there while we were busy watching that one. This is what we get for looking away. So you can see that Weigar's gone through on Manuel. Palmer's up the inside, and then just contact from Manuel sends Palmer off to the edge. Manuel's just going to sit there and redress that one, which is always good to see. But that's going to cost them both a couple of spots now.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, redressing is always a good thing. It's something that we like to see our drivers do. I think that you'll see Phil Manuel get still get a small penalty. It'll be reduced because of that redress, but yeah, that's an unfortunate way for both of those guys to you know, have their sprint race go. They should be able to move forward from where they are now, and you know, they've still got 8 laps to go, so they should be okay. Yeah,
time up the sleeve, which is always good. G'day Luke, good to have you in the chat, mate. It's a shame you're not out on track tonight, but hope you enjoy the coverage all the same and imagine yourself in amongst it. Simon Farrington has picked up a black flag. Now, I haven't got the info coming through from race control just yet. I'm not sure if we will get a bunch of it tonight. They're a little tight on team, but I suspect that's probably a little something to do with Farrington going directly into the back of Troy Sipple. I could be wrong. There could be something else that we've missed. As Palmer gets that move done through turn 1, Johnson, no response, and Simon Farrington's now going to have a look up the inside as well as they make their way down the second straight towards that nasty right-hander. Farrington's going to have to get himself well alongside. It'll be very, very late on the brakes if he wants to make something of this. He looks like he's dedicated, he's committing to it, he's just going to send it up the inside, barges on through and says goodbye to Johnston, and Phil Manuel makes it through as well. A really, really bold move from both of those drivers, but it's moved them up at exactly the result they were hoping for.
Yeah, I think that Farrington can be pretty grateful there for the respect that he was shown by the team AJR car. You know, that was probably a move that was very close to not being on, but you know, they all got through there safely, and that's the important bit, Jared. We do flick our eyes to the front, and you know, this track really has the ability to keep these groups together. We see here, you know, Ken Ladder and Wayne Walker, they're running together, and then only a small gap back to Poynton, Vanderkraan and Jason Benstead. That's a great move into turn 1. That was authoritative. Vanderkraan gave him a little bit of room, and of course, because Vanderkraan was able to take the corner at a more normal or you know, correct speed, he was able to have a crack, and he's going to try and stay around the outside. I'm just not sure that it's going to be what he wants, and he will have to settle back into that rhythm, get tucked in behind Jason Benson so that he can get back up to the back of that common racing car.
Such a tough corner, that, and I know it's turn 3 technically, but it's turn 2. Let's be honest. The corner on that straight just doesn't count. That turn is nigh on impossible to get a pass done around the outside. I've never seen it happen in the absence of a massive error from the person who owns the apex there, because it's just such a tight turn that you add on so much extra distance trying to go around the outside. It's near impossible.
The trick to it, or the one thing to try and do, is to actually slow up a little early, and then change your line completely and do a switchback, and then you get drive, and you've got the inside line down to turn 4. So that's probably the move. But yeah, you're right. Trying to hang tough around the outside, I don't think ever works, to be fair, Jared.
Oh, look, you occasionally get lucky, but then you pay the price in tyres, don't you? The extra temp that you pick up basically destroys your next 2 or 3 corners. So you've got to be really certain that it's going to be worth it, and you can defend in the following corners if you're going to sacrifice just a little bit of grip for the next little while as well.
Yeah, the other big challenge is the fact that if you do hang tough around there, but you don't get the pass done, you put yourself back on the outside for the very next corner. Oh, cars going everywhere there. That is the one. There is a big challenge at this track, Jared, and that's that pit lane entrance in between the last 2 corners. And I think what we saw
had
there
a
was
massive error trying to get in there.
Yeah, I think it was someone trying to get in, and other cars not knowing what was going on. And, it nearly got very bad. So yeah, we see there Sipple's got no front downforce, and yeah, so Sipple actually took what is a pretty normal line, and I'm not sure who it was, but the Angry Birds car that thought that they were going to dive down the inside and suddenly realised, and thankfully realised just in time, but did suddenly realise that there was a car trying to get across to the pits. Ryan Palmer then trying the outside line, trying to hang around the outside and set himself up for the 2 left-handers. It wasn't successful, but is tucked right in behind now as we see them move through these 2 left-handers, and Ryan Palmer starting to move his way back forward after that spin before, and he's pretty quickly got onto the back of Joel Stawall and Mick Clifton, and he will be doing everything he can to get past these guys and continue his charge forward.
As we see them come around the second to last corner, Palmer's up the inside, he's going to hold that, and Osterwald no choice but to just hang back, and now he's going to try and stick on the back. Palmer's got a great run here if he can keep on the back of Clifton. He looks up the inside, so he's going to try a bit of the Sydney Motorsport magic and just throw a bit of extra air up and over that rear wing and slow Clifton down. It looks like it's going to be enough, as long as he can avoid that outer curb, and has done so beautifully. But we've now got a 5-way battle as Galley and Manuel join in at the back of this one. Clifton goes past Osterwald in the background. He's going to be up the inside. Can he get back across and actually lock this one out? He can, and yeah, not a bad move from Osterwald at all. He's going with Palmer at the moment.
Yeah, that was a couple, some nice driving from a couple of guys there, Jared, and we saw, that was a pretty impressive move from Ryan where he positioned himself really nicely in behind the wall and just gave Clifton nowhere to go. That was that was well thought out, and some really nice racing on display here from a number of these guys. It's really cool to see. And one thing that I've just realised, Jared, we're up to lap 8 already. These laps they're going quick. There's plenty to look at. Ken Ladder and Wayne Walker are still glued together. I'm pretty sure they're connected by a bungee cord, and never anything more. But they are really continuing to put on a show up the front.
Yeah, and Ken Ladder, to his credit, he's doing a great job just holding Wayne Walker there. Now, Walker's probably playing a bit of strategy here. From everything we've seen over this season, g'day Andrew, welcome on into the chat, mate. Good to have you along with us. From everything I've seen this season, there is nothing you can say to me to make me believe that Wayne Walker is not intentionally just sitting in behind Ken Ladder right now. Ladder is quick, no doubt about it, but Wayne Walker has been so dominating that any time I see him behind another car for more than about 2 or 3 laps, I immediately go, okay, he's got a strategy going on here.
Yeah, I don't know, Jared. Like Ken is very fast. We've seen time and time again, Ken qualify up the front, run up the front. I would suggest that this season, if Ken hasn't had bad luck, he wouldn't have had any luck at all, which has been a huge shame for him, but I'm just not convinced. This is one of those tracks where, whilst there's a couple of really good passing opportunities, if you're fast, it's also reasonably easy to run around, and hold people off. It just promotes good racing. It's as opposed to being the best passing track in the world, or a great track where you qualify out the front and then you can defend like crazy. It just produces good racing, and you know, I'm going to give Ken just a little bit more credit than possibly you have, and say that I reckon he's doing it on speed.
Yeah, look, yeah, let's take nothing away from him. He's absolutely quick, always has been, and you're right. He's had some races this season that just haven't finished the way they probably should have for him, which has got to be frustrating, right? When you know you've got that sort of pace, but you just can't quite get it to all come together across an entire race distance consistently. You know, it's a frustrating way for him to spend this season, and he's further down the leaderboard than he probably deserves to be, even though he's not that far down the leaderboard. You'd almost say that if he had some consistency of results, that you'd expect him to be up around the very top end and battling it out very, very closely with Wayne Walker in terms of points. As it is, though, it's not where it's going to land at the end of the season, I don't imagine. But nothing wrong at all with Ken taking it to Wayne here tonight and really pushing on for this race win. Damon Fisher, Luke Allman absolutely spot on. Damon Fisher needs to finish in 10th to take advantage of that reverse top 10 grid for race number 2. And at the moment, he's got a very healthy buffer to kind of work with Chad Varga and Craig Schulz still, you know, just playing around a little bit behind him. And it's going to give him just a little bit of comfort that he's not the only target in that group. And we'll actually jump back here because Wayne Walker's starting to really close in as we get towards the final lap. This is what I think Ken Latta will have been watching and waiting for, is the heavy attack that'll come from Walker as we get towards the white flag, because he wants to make sure that when he does make this move, there's very little opportunity to try and take it back again. Hasn't made the move just yet, but keep an eye on that one as we get closer and closer to that line. Damon Fisher, we were just talking about, Chad Varga and Craig Schulz are there, but not really threatening at the moment. Regardless, Fisher is holding just a slightly more defensive than regular line there, just to make it a tad more difficult for that move to happen for Varga. They both leave Craig Schulz behind on the exit of that corner. Great bit of traction coming out of there, and they've opened that one up to almost a second behind there. Rick Varga is going to have a crack up the inside on the run down to that same turn. Johnston's well outside, so Varga's going to have to be very, very late on the brakes if he wants to make this one work. As it stands, he pulls back and just waits a moment, but a big error there from Johnston sends him out into the kitty litter, and Rick Varga will continue on.
Yeah, it's such a challenging braking zone there, Jared, down that hill. So not at all surprised to see a couple of mistakes there tonight. As you said last lap, Wayne Walker really started to apply a bit of extra blowtorch heat to the back of Ken Latta's car, and Ken Latta definitely appears to have responded. You know, only 8 hundredths slower than Wayne Walker last lap. So they are really matching their lap times so incredibly closely. It's really interesting to see. It is the final lap, Jared. So I don't think that Wayne Walker's got enough in the tank to be able to get there and get that pass done for the win.
Yeah, unlikely. Chad Varga gets the pass done, just gets a better drive up the hill, and so he'll move up into 10th spot, which will position him really, really nicely if he can hold Damon Fisher off for just a little bit further around this track. Fisher just seems to have overcooked it a little in that car and is struggling a bit for pace now. Craig Schulz starting to get closer and closer behind. Out in front, Wayne Walker just cannot seem to find that last little bit that he needs to get ahead. So Ken Latta is about to come around the corner and head for the finish line. The checkered flag is out, and here they come down the main straight. Ken Latta takes the win in race number 1, 4/10 to Wayne Walker behind. Then Mark Poynton and Jason Bentz ahead of Vanderkraan, Logsdale and Sean Vandermeulen. And Jamie Dyke just coming around the final turn now will finish almost 6 seconds behind in 8th place as the rest of the field makes their way across. Very close to the line there for Varga, Fisher and Schulz, but Chad Varga will retain 10th, so it does mean he will jump forward to the front of the grid for race number 2. He'll be pretty happy with that, I reckon. Ryan Palmer comes across the line, maybe a little distracted by all the stuff hanging off his head tonight. Comes home in 17th. ahead of Joel Osterwald, then Clifton and Manuel, Brad Hayes and Dave Galley, with Rick Varga and Andrew Johnston behind them. And the gaps back to the rest of the field just starting to show now as the last of the drivers do make their way through. As we wait on Darren Walden, Craig Rose and Ashley Hall, the last drivers out there on the lead lap. David Longsdale, that incident right back at the start has set him back a long way, unfortunately.
It has, and that's a real shame. But he has persevered and got to the finish line, which is always what we want to see. It's a credit to a couple of these guys, Jared, who continue week in, week out to turn up, and we only get the healthy grids by everyone coming, and there's a couple of guys here that really put a huge amount of effort in, and they're getting better and better every week, Jared. But they're still probably not where they would like to be.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. Ken Latta, though, takes the win in race number 1 tonight, so he'll be happy with the full haul of points. Wayne Walker and Mark Poynton behind them. Now, that'll be an interesting one. We were talking a little earlier about Poynton being just off the back of the podium chase, if I'm not mistaken, and Vanderkine and Dean Logsdale being just a couple places further down means that that might just start to shape up a little more realistically for Poynton if he can keep that sort of performance up. Jason Bentz snuggled in the middle there in 4th. Then Sean Vandermeulen in 7th ahead of Jamie Dyke, Jim Caperonis and Chad Vigar rounding out your top 10. A pleasure to see in that opening race, Josh. Pretty clean, all things considered.
Yeah, a couple of small incidents, Jared, but nothing crazy, and that's what we like to see. Probably less very large tyre bundles and things of that nature here than in Mexico. But still, you make a good point. It's nice to see a nice clean race, and a big race 2 coming up now. I don't remember exactly how many laps it is, Jared, but a really
35
good
ahead.
Yeah, 35. There you go. So that's been a nice little warm up for these guys. Get a couple laps under the belt, and then get out on the track soon. And 35 laps, couple of pit stops. It's going to be a genuinely good race, and a nice length that you can really settle in and use a bit of strategy to move forward.
Yeah, and look, if you can ladder, obviously a bit of work to do to get back through the field, but that opening race has got to fill you with a bit of confidence. Ultimately, you've just got to go out and do that same kind of pace 3 times with a couple of pit stops in the middle to get your compulsory stops, and just make your way past the 8 or 9 drivers that are going to be ahead of you. The biggest challenge I think Ladder will have is that he's going to be starting alongside and slightly behind Wayne Walker, and so it might be a tad more difficult to stop Wayne from progressing up through the field in the same kind of way as we saw from Ken in race 1, but that all remains to be seen. Stay tuned, folks. We will be back with race 2 in just a short moment.
Providing the best for your family means a healthy, secure, and comfortable environment. But the daily risks your family faces are often invisible. Solar Guard performance films protect what matters most to you. While you're concentrating on the task at hand, we're protecting your family from uncomfortable solar heat, harmful UV light, and glare. Our window films and protective coatings are designed with decades of technical expertise and provide a vision towards the future. Solar Guard provides added protection to the places where they're needed most, creating invisible barriers for increased security. The people of Solar Guard design carbon-negative solutions that can help reduce energy costs and improve comfort. Allow us to tackle the invisible challenges so you can focus on the important things in life. What matters most to you? We're on it. Saint-Gobain, Solar Guard.
Well, welcome back, folks. Hope you've gone and refreshed your drink, getting ready for race 2, which lies just about 2 or 3 minutes ahead of us here. G'day, Berkey. Welcome to the conversation. Good to have you along with us this evening. as we gear up for race 2 here at the Red Bull Ring, the ASR Supercar Championship presented by SolarGuard St. Gobain, and this is the third to last round for this season, and it's looking like it's going to have to be Wayne Walker's season, surely, Josh.
Yeah, I can't see it going any other way. Wayne Walker is, in my opinion, second to none at just being able to put race after race after race together with really good results. It doesn't matter whether he's, first or like this race, he's going to start ninth. But he inevitably just calmly drives himself forward. I don't remember the last time that I really saw Wayne involved in many incidents on the same night.
And look, just to give some context to those who haven't been following the entire championship, Wayne Walker's drop round was race number 1, 172 points out of a possible 300. Since that night, his races have been 291 points, 257, 266, 299, 290, 266. So his worst round is so far back. It's just ludicrous, honestly. I can't see it changing a great deal. Let's have a look at the grid for race number 2 with the reminder, of course, we have a reverse top 10 for this second round. So Chad Weiger and Jim Caperonis will get the pole start ahead of Jamie Dyke and Sean Vandermeulen. Then Dean Logsdale and Matt Vanderkraan right in the middle of this group. Jason Bentz and Mark Poynton behind them. Wayne Walker and Ken Latta starting from the 5th row. The rest of the field starts where they finished in race 1 following that 12-lap sprint. Damon Fisher and Craig Schulz just outside the top 10 with David Coleman and James Hardy behind them. Andrew Rushworth and Stephen Varga on row 8. Then Ryan Palmer and Joel Lustoval line up ahead of Mick Clifton and Phil Manuel. Brad Hayes had a rough opening round. He started in 21st. Dave Galley alongside Rick Vigar and Andrew Johnston on row 12 behind them. Simon Farrington and Darren Walden line up next to each other with Craig Rose and Ashley Hall, both from Quantum Racing, right in behind them. Troy Sipple and David Logsdale rounding out your 30. And Todd Martin back on the 31st spot. I don't know that we'll see him in there tonight. I suspect he's probably a bit of a backup safety car driver this evening, but I haven't actually had confirmation of that. Brad Grant, though, in the SolarGuard safety car, not called on in that first race, and I'm hoping we see a relatively clean second race with a similar kind of result for a lack of safety cars, if we can get away with it, Josh.
Yeah, I think this is a good track to allow us, to go safety car free for the night. Lots of runoff, not a huge amount of, concrete walls or anything silly, but we do have 30-odd supercars all within a very short space of each other, or small space of each other, coming up. So let's see how they go and see whether we're able to get through these first couple of laps without anything too untoward happening, Jared.
Yeah, look, it'll be an interesting one. And watch rows 3, 4 and 5 to see who gets the jump from back there, because I suspect it'll be one of them. The lights are up. Simon Farrington looks like he'll be starting from the pits as we get ready to go racing, and Chad Vigar and Jim Caperonis lead us away with actually not too many cars making the dive to the middle this time around. So a pretty good start from all of that front pack as we head on up into turn 1 for the first time. And we do make it through relatively cleanly, although I perhaps have spoken too soon. We've got a few cars running wide there, and I think everyone's survived it, but a little hard to say slowdowns for Mark Poynton and for Ken Latta. So both of them will have to try and burn that time off here, which is a tough one to do. It means that Jason Bentz has made his way through, though, to the front of the field. Sean Vandermeulen going in as well, as you see one of the AJR cars going very, very wide through that sharp right-hander. And we come on back down the hill. It's a pretty clean start all around, and the pack still hasn't sorted itself out into that racing line. Jamie Dyke goes through past Chad Vigar. Again, we've got a few cars further back. It looks like there might have been an incident at the back of the field. A bit of smoke back there, and a few cars that have dropped right off the back. So we'll go back and take a look at that in just a moment. But as it stands, Jason Bentz has absolutely charged through the field, up 6 positions to the lead by the time we get halfway through this lap. That is a massive start from the Quantum Racing entry.
Yeah, it's a fantastic start, and everyone knows in all racing, but especially in supercars, um, it's important to get your passes done early, Jared. There's so many cars around. Passes, they're right for the picking, and Jason Bentz has done an absolutely fantastic job, up 6 spots, like you said. And Jason's fast. We've seen it this year a couple of times, Jared. He's, get him out the front, give him some space to work him. The guys behind, Ken Latta, Matt Vanderkram, Wayne Walker. Like, Wayne Walker has not had a good start to this race, Jared. He's gone down 1 spot over the first lap, so he obviously had a bad start. And, they've got some work to do, because Bentz, Dyke and Logsdale have proven time and time again how fast they are. We just see there, who is that?
That's Chad Vigar just making a bit of contact with Logsdale, and what a moment for it to happen just at the start of that braking zone. That really unsettled Logsdale's efforts there in the braking zone. He's done a great job to actually hold it together. We see a black flag for Sean Vandermeer, and I'm not quite sure what's brought that on, but I suspect that is probably a race control imposed black flag. I can't think of any other way we'll pick one up quite so early on. Logsdale and Vigar absolutely smashing it out here.
Didn't see whether Vandermeer had a slowdown, Jared. But the other way he may have picked one up is if he missed, he had a slowdown and didn't serve all of that slowdown in time.
And that's been a real issue that we've seen a few times across a number of leagues this season, isn't it? The new UI from iRacing is great. I love it personally, but the default placement in particular of some of the flag locations, it can be really, really easy to actually not see that you've got a flag sitting there. Now the slowdowns obviously are a bit more distinct in their messaging, telling you exactly how much you do need to sort of back it off. But we've seen, particularly with black flags, so often that drivers have missed that and run the 3 laps and actually been disqualified as a result. So it's a real warning for iRacing drivers out there. Make sure you do play around with your overlays and get them set up so you can see exactly what's happening with any flags that are issued to you. As it stands, though, Ken Latta has taken a bit of advantage of some of the early... Look, chaos is perhaps too strong a word, but there's been plenty going on. Latta's kept his nose fairly clean. He's up 4 spots right now. The interesting one out of all that, Wayne Walker has decided to go for the massive undercut. He's come in and done his first compulsory pit stop at the end of lap 2, so he's going to be fighting it back from the back of the field. Now that does give him a bit of an advantage though, because he's got himself in a position where he can see what's happening up ahead. The rest of these drivers are going to be really guessing a bit as to exactly where he's going to pop out in front of them when they do come in for that first stop. So he's starting to just set himself up. Ken Latta has a big look up the inside of Chad Vigar. Not quite there, but he's going to really put the pressure on Vigar as they come down the hill here towards this final turn. Latta is keen to get underway. He doesn't want Mark Poynton disappearing off into the distance, and Vigar is not going quick enough for his liking.
No, he's not. Do we see a move here? I think we do, Jared. So Ken Latta pulls out, gets a little bit of overlap. He's done a really good job there of making sure that he has the right to the corner. And unfortunately for Chad Vigar, there's just nothing to do but to concede that position. A number of people, Jared, took their pit stop on that lap. Wayne Walker, Ryan Palmer, Andrew Rushworth, and Joel Oosterwall, and Jim Caparonis, I do believe. I know they've all got a pit stop. I'm pretty sure that they were all in early in that last lap to take their first pit, try and get themselves into a bit of clear air, and like you said, do that big undercut, put in lots and lots of clean laps and go on around them. Will it pay off? I'm not sure, but time will tell. There's still a long way to go in this race, Jared, as we see here a couple of quantum cars and what looks to be
contact there. Coleman into the back of Troy Sipple, and Sipple is going to end up all the way off in the kitty litter as a result. It was looking a little bit treacherous as they were 3 wide there, but Troy Sipple unfortunately coming off worse than that. And it's something you see happen all too often when these guys can't quite decide who's going first into one of these corners.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Dave Coleman, this season, if there has been something going on around him on track, whether he was initially involved or not, but unfortunately, Dave has just found himself involved in everything, and that's there's another example there where Dave, unfortunately, I've spent a lot of time racing with Dave. I wouldn't call Dave a dirty driver, but what he thought there was probably where he's clear. I don't think that there was anything intentional in that, Jared, but
No,
I feel sorry for the bloke, because every time that I turn around, he's unfortunately found himself involved in something. A couple of them have been his doing, and a lot of them have really unfortunately just been him finding stuff on track. It's been a shame, because Dave's incredibly quick behind the wheel of a supercar, but just hasn't had time to keep his practice up, unfortunately, recently. But nonetheless, he will move forward. I expect we'll see a bit of a penalty come through for that, and he'll keep charging on. Ken Latta, though, fishy teammate, trying to go the long way around on Dean Logsdale. He gets there, and that positions him for the inside of the second last corner. I'm pretty sure that he'll manage to get this done, but it is going to be still a battle on the brakes, and eventually Dean Logsdale concedes position and tucks in behind Ken Latta. Ken Latta now up to fourth. That's up 6. This race so far, he's doing a good job. He's moving forward. Mark Poynton up the road for him now, so I'll be interested to see whether he's got the pace to really keep pushing forward. And can he get up to the back of the Frog Leap Juice racing car in front?
Take a look a little bit further back in the pack with some of these cars that have made their early stop. Rick Vigar, Stephen Varga, Mick Clifton, all are right in amongst it right now in what is a battle for 23rd, technically speaking, in the standings. But we'll start to wash out a little bit as these first of the 2 compulsory pit stops do come on through. And I don't know that Vargas or Clifton will find themselves in a position to challenge for the race lead at this point. But Wayne Walker is not that much further up the road. He's sitting in 20th at the moment, and quite a gap really from him back to the likes of Ryan Palmer as Walker makes his way past David Logsdale just on the way into that second tight turn. Ryan Palmer is 5.5 seconds off the back of Logsdale right now. Walker did set the fastest time on the lap just previous to his last one, so 2 laps ago now, I guess that'd be 131.82. To give you a bit of an indication, the next fastest lap's a 31.84 from Jamie Dyke up in second. Everyone else in the 32s and 33s, so a bit of clean air really paying off for Wayne Walker, and that's probably exactly what he was hoping to see.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and as you said, he's got a bit of space back to Ryan Palmer, but of course that's good for Ryan as well. He'll just be head down. He's got his own little part of the world there that he can focus on moving forward, and Ryan certainly doesn't have the pace of Wayne tonight, but it'll still be doing his race wonders, especially after a tough race 1. We do now throw our attention forward to what looks to me to be Logsdale and Vanderkram. They are, starting to build up a really nice little battle here, and this pack is getting bigger and bigger. That train is really starting to form up behind Dean Logsdale, but Dean's been quick this season, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's not holding them up all that much. Let's just say that, and I think we'll see him continue to move forward, and potentially just this train forming up, Jared, to work together a little bit and just put in good quality fast laps without tripping over each other too much.
And look, just a little bit of random trivia while we're here. The eagle-eyed amongst you might have noticed that the ASR intro video that plays at the start of every broadcast ends with a bit of a zoom in on none other than Matt Vanderkraan's front right fender, where he's got that Alliance Sim Racing logo, and that happens at what was a very wet Red Bull ring from a couple of seasons ago. So I'm sure he'll be much happier to see the sky rather a lot more clear here today than it was that time around.
Yeah, I was here for that night, Jared. Thankfully in the booth, not on the track, and you're right. That was a very, very wet night, and you know, the racing that night was superb. As we see here, Matt Vanderkrandt throws his car up the inside. He's hard on the brakes, and hoping that Dean Logstone gives him room, which he does. No doubt Dean will have good drive off that corner, and you see straight away Matt Vanderkrandt shifts his car across to the right to make sure that he has preference for the corner at the bottom of the hill, holding the inside. Dean does a fantastic job getting on the brakes late, and he wants to hang around the outside, but I'm not sure that he's going to be able to do it. Although, if he can, he has the inside for the next few laps, and he's done it, Jared. He did manage to stay there, but Vanderkrandt just got the door closed, and I think that you're going to see that pass now finally. It took a number of laps, but we did get there in the end. That was some beautiful, clean side-by-side racing. Both of those guys have done a fantastic job, but Vanderkrandt has now eventually passed Dean, and we will see whether Vanderkrandt's got anything for Ken Ladder, and can he start to reel him in, or was that a bit opportunistic? Straight away though, Matt Vanderkrandt's put, what does he put? A second and a half on Vigard, and Dean's dived into the pits though, which kind of changes that a little bit. Oh, we see there a big lock-up from
Chad Vigard.
Chad Vigard, big lock-up.
Getting too heavy in the brakes, and he's going to pick up a slowdown for his troubles as well. I've always found that to be one of the more interesting slowdowns in iRacing is the outside of turn one here at Red Bull Ring. I totally understand why it issues a slowdown, because if you do manage to go over that sausage curb without flicking the car sideways, you can pick up a huge amount of extra pace and time by opening the outside of that corner up. But the number of times I've seen someone go over that sausage curb at a pace that actually makes sense to try and carve time out, they never survive it.
No, if you get just the right car, you can do it, Jared. I remember I was doing some practicing a few months ago, sometime earlier this year, mucking around in a GT3 car. And I did happen to work out that if you did barrel over that outside sausage curb and you got the angle right and you kept your foot flat in it, that, as you said, you picked up a heap of time. You did get an off track and you did get a slowdown, but interestingly, Jared, you could burn that slowdown before it expired without ever once lifting out of the slot.
Oh, now that's a little bit interesting, a little bit sneaky. But like any good racing driver, always looking for opportunities to take whatever advantage you can find, hey?
All that I knew was that I tucked that in the back of my mind, and if I needed to get away from somebody,
the option
maybe
was
on the last
there.
lap or something like that, the option was definitely there. I think it would be far harder to pass someone using that option. But yes, that was something that I did explore with, and obviously it's reasonably high risk. Like you said, Jared, the amount of times it was, it's so easy going over that little sausage curb to get it entirely wrong. But when you get it just right, it can have its rewards, although it would be argued, I guess, a little bit like real racing, that there are limits to how cheeky you can be with track limits and not expect to have to give it up. We have seen now, I talked a couple of laps ago about whether Ken Ladder had the pace to get to the back of Poynton, or get to the back of Poynton. He has, Jared. He's put on a pass, and that has been a swap of positions. So early on in this race, I know that we now have two fishy cars on the podium, and Ken Ladder will be absolutely doing what he can to continue moving forward. We do now jump all the way back to 17th as we see Palmer there. He has on this lap disposed of Ashley Hall, and he'll be looking to make quick work of Andrew Rushworth as well as he continues to move forward after that early pit stop.
Yeah, I think Ashley Hall must have had a bit of a moment coming out of that tight right-hander. We'll go back and take a very quick look. As there it is. Yeah, he's just put the foot down a little too hard, lit it up, and he's managed to do a brilliant job of controlling it, getting it lined back up. But it's cost him a couple of positions in doing so, which is probably about the best outcome you can hope for at that particular point. We're starting to see a bunch of those first pit stops rolling through now for these drivers. Reminder to everyone at home, it is 2 compulsory pit stops here this evening. And if you're looking to split this race into nice even thirds, the roundabout now that you'd start thinking about coming on through. There is no requirement for the drivers to do anything other than get up onto the jack stands. That counts as their compulsory pit stop. So, you know, if you want to chuck a litre in there and get out again, you can absolutely do that and have that counted compulsory. But you'd have to think that the drivers are being a little bit more strategic than that around how they manage the fuel load across these 35 laps, given that they've only got a 60% tank capacity compared to the full bore version of a Gen 3 supercar.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, there's pros and cons to the way that these things are set up, but that requirement, Jared, to get these cars up on the jack stands and then, you know, that constitutes a stop. Really is something that I find so interesting when I've raced in this championship. You really have to spend some time working out what you want the strategy to be, because there's you know, there's so many options. Often when you join these leagues, not a huge amount of thought is necessarily put into, you know, stint length or overall race length, and, you know, how many pit stops to do and stuff, and you kind of get locked into one strategy, if that makes sense, Jared. But these guys do a fantastic job. I will give them the credit that they deserve for throwing up these race lengths and, you know, compulsory pit stops and stuff like that, where you really do have just this wide number of options thrown open to you. You know, because you know, it makes for really fun racing, and sometimes you get it right and sometimes you get it really wrong.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell the difference sometimes between really right and really wrong until you do get to that final lap, as we see almost three wides starting to shape up here. Dean Logsdale thinks better of it. He's going to let Vigar and Varga sort it out through this turn, and look at him blitz off the back, gets past Varga up the inside, although a bit of a wiggle's going to slow that progress down. They're going to be actually probably not quite as side by side as I thought. That's really taken some wind out of Logsdale's sails. He's still there, but not going to have the overlap that he had hoped to send a move up the inside this time around. So all the work that he's done to set that pass up just it vanishes in an instant. He's going to have to do it all over again on the next lap. As these pit stops start to work themselves out, Wayne Walker, that undercut has paid off big time. He is up into 7th at the moment. The only other driver that's up there, or the next driver that's up there that's made their first stop, is Jason Bentz, who is currently sitting about a 3.5 second gap back from Walker. So that early pit stop, definitely a good call for Wayne Walker in terms of his overall race result. The Accelerate Sim Racing car performing beautifully tonight, as it often does. Ken Latta comes out of the pits. He's in 8th. So that's a fair way further back. It'll be interesting to see how that might play out in the next round of pit stops.
Yeah, there is still this, you know, this challenge of the next round of pit stops, and of course, you know, some drivers would have taken their long stop first, and some would have taken their shorter stop first, Jared. So, you know, still a fair bit to play out. I don't know that, you know, I don't know that I think. Oh,
Dean Logsdale sends it up the inside. Vargas saw it coming, just left room. Sorry to cut you off there, Josh, but that was a very, very late braking attempt from Dean Logsdale. I don't know that he had really the overlap to try it, but Varga just wasn't quite early enough. And here he goes again, sends it up the inside, big brake lockup. He'll go to the outside. Varga just says, thank you very much, I'll go back across the inside. Varga's keeping such a cool head under massive pressure from Dean Logsdale, who is starting to get just a little bit reckless in some of these attempts. He's got to be really careful here.
Yeah, he does, and to be fair, Dean Logsdale there is very lucky 2 corners in a row that Vargas was watching his mirrors, because you know, twice in a row there, that could have been a big contact and you know, almost a slam dunk penalty in my opinion. But nonetheless, he has gotten away with it, and he's now straight into the pits. I don't disagree with that call either, Jared. Get your pit stop done. You know, that's you know, he's stuck in the middle of a of a battle pack there. Far better to extricate yourself from that and pick that CPS off and get back out racing on your own without all that traffic around.
Especially if you're starting to throw moves like that, and you have that brief moment of clarity where you go, hang on, what am I doing here? I need to get out of this and just give myself a little bit of breathing room to almost calm down a little and refocus. Rushworth, Palmer and Schultz in the battle for 8th. We've seen a black flag given to Jamie Dyke, and Schultz just runs very, very wide in the background, manages to keep it out of the kitty litter, but he's going to drop off the back of this battle. It's it's just one of those things, isn't it? Sometimes you get so caught up in those packs that you start to make silly moves because you feel like you can be faster than the car ahead, but you just don't want to sit behind them any longer after a certain amount of time, and you end up making some poor decisions. I think Dean Logsdale's made the right call at the right time just to get out of it and free himself up a bit.
Yeah, you're right. It's a good choice and a big part of this style of racing where we don't have pit crews and stuff, and engineers guiding us through this is knowing when to pull the pin and dive into pits, and Dean Logsdale made a really sensible decision there.
So we see the group up front as it comes together, not actually that far off the back of Wayne Walker, about 2 seconds now the gap from Jason Bentz up towards him. We're getting some traffic just getting caught up in this a little bit. Bentz has to slow right down. That brings Mark Poynton squarely into this run down the hill again. There's Wayne Walker just disappearing off the front of the screen, but Bentz, Poynton, ladder all right there. Jamie Dyke has that black flag sitting there. Are we going to see a repeat of this where a driver just doesn't see the black flag? The minute I see a black flag not cleared immediately, I start to worry for the driver, honestly.
I think if Dyke goes past the second time, it's probably a little bit more concerning. But yeah, it's a challenge for all of us. One of the things with this new UI, Jared, is that we all get the opportunity. We can move things around and we sit there when we're not racing, and I'll put this here and that there, and look, that clears up some space, and then before you know it, you don't realise that something's no longer in your eye line, in that heat of the moment thing. As we see there, Dyke goes past again.
He's got one more up his sleeve.
Concerning.
Yeah, I really hope that someone in that fishy group in the team chat there is talking to Jamie Dyke, going, yeah mate, look, run with us here, but you've got to get in next lap, because if he doesn't serve that'll be a disqualification, and that will not make for one happy Dykey, I can tell you that much.
No, we know Dykey. We have, certainly I have a huge amount of respect for him and his driving, but he wears his heart on his sleeve. There's no doubt about that. Mark Poynton there really rubbing panels. All's well that ends well there. But Dykey definitely wears his heart on his sleeve, and I think that bitterly disappointed would be the term that I'll use if he does find himself DQ'd before picking up a black flag.
The really interesting thing is that he's still battling wheel to wheel here with Mark Poynton, so he's not backing off in the slightest, knowing that he's got to come in here anyway. He could so easily just sit on the back of this pack and peel in here. I'm nervous. I want to look away, but I just can't bring myself to, even though there's a couple of other really good battles going on, because if Jamie Dyke sails past that pit entry here, that's going to be it. Now, had he just had a bit of a moment on the way out of that corner? Is this him about to peel off into the pits and serve this drive-through? Come on, tell me you're coming in. Jamie Dyke, thank you so much. You've just put my poor little heart at ease. I was so bloody worried we were going to see another disqualification to an unseen black flag, but he'll come through and serve that drive-through now and pick his racing up a bit further back in the pack. Big wiggle there for Rushworth as he dips a tyre into the grass. Ryan Palmer will have just a little bit of extra pace as a result. It's not going to be enough to get the move done at turn 1, but it will set him up nicely to have a think about the run into this long curving straight. I know curving straight is a bit of an oxymoron, but that's absolutely what it is here at the Red Bull Ring, isn't it?
That's probably my favourite one here, Jared, as we see Ken Ladder makes short work of Jason Bentz, and that fishy Mustang continues to charge forward. Ken Latta only 3.4 seconds off the back of Wayne Walker. He is having a fantastic night in that black and silver Mustang, and must be noted, Ken Latta does have the quickest lap of the race. Wasn't quite as fast as Wayne Walker on that last lap, it should be said, but potentially was being slightly held up by Bent. So we will now see how those guys go moving forward. It's interesting reading as well, Jared. Just looking at the time that people have spent in pits in that first stop. Jason Bent's been spending some 5, 6, 7 seconds longer than most people.
23 and a half
in the pits
in there.
Yeah,
It's quite a difference. And you talk about the total pit lane times. We've got your pit box times up on screen for you there, folks, just to give you a bit of a feel for it. When you look at the total pit lane time, it really starts to add up. Jason Bent's spending a good 3 seconds longer. So even with a good run through the pits, it's definitely costing. As Schultz and Weigand go side by side, Schultz is up the inside into turn one, and here comes Jamie Dyke. He's served his drive-through and he has rejoined right behind this pair. And have a look at the pace he's got out of turn one. He's going to look to follow up the inside as Weigand holds that inner line. He's looking for a pass up here, and Jamie Dyke well positioned to make the move past Schultz as well if he can get the nose alongside. Can't quite get there this time, but the drive out of that turn, the entry into that was beautiful, and Jamie Dyke gets the foot down. He's not going to quite have the pace though, so he will continue to battle it out there for ninth. We've seen the first of those second stops starting to roll on through. David Coleman, probably the lead driver at the moment for, actually no, I stand corrected, sorry. Coleman will be picked up from his start from the pits as well, so he's actually only made one stop. The lead driver then, with 2 stops under their belt, would be Dean Logsdale, currently sitting in 19th. So keep your eye on that as the rest of this race unfolds. We are just past the halfway point here in race 2 for round 8 of the Alliance Sim Racing Supercar Championship, brought to you by Solagard St. Gobain. And the racing is really just starting to heat up as Jamie Dyke goes past Craig Schultz, who just gets on out of the way. He knows that there's a bit more pace in that car and lets him on through. Ryan Palmer and Simon Farrington have found each other in this battle for 20th. Both very shiny cars. You've got to give them that much, if nothing else. Can't see much as we look into the sun there, but coming back around the second left-hander, and Palmer is closing the gap. It's only by 100th here, 100th there, but he is starting to reel Farrington in a big way. The question is, where's he going to poke the nose out and make this pass? Has a little bit of a look here. Doesn't quite send it at this point, but watch for the move onto the main straight.
Yeah, I think that Palmer will be setting himself up for a good run through this last corner. He's been good here all night, and straight away he's just come out of the pits, Jared, and so he has far better grip. He's able to use less of the track on the way out of the last corner, and that just immediately sets him up to make a really good run up the straight and through turn one. And Farrington is disposed of. We do now jump back to have a look at Jim Caparonis, who puts on a nearly identical move on Andrew Johnson.
And it's exactly the sort of move you expect to see in supercars. You give us a long straight with a heavy braking zone and a tight turn at the end, and I will almost guarantee that that's where we see all of the passes happen for the night. This track, though, the Red Bull Ring, gives you more than one opportunity to do that, which is honestly almost a little bit rare when I think about some of the tracks that we've been to this season. There's been a lot of tracks that have actually made it really, really difficult to get a pass done. The Red Bull Ring, on the other hand, provides not only a lot of opportunities for those passes, but also a bunch of great opportunities to try and send it back again against that driver at the next turn. You think about turn 1, turn 3, I'll give it that. As Chad Weigand picks up a black flag here, so Jamie Dyke's going to go up the inside. Weigand's going to have to come and serve a drive-through at some point as well. But, even if you get that pass done there, you've got to be on your toes, because realistically, Weigand can absolutely send it up the inside into this next tight right-hander. Jamie Dyke just trying to cover that move a little, but Weigand not having the pace to really stick with him means that Jamie Dyke can just relax a little bit and take a more standard approach into that corner. The gap to Wayne Walker out in front is coming down. It's slowly being chipped away at by Ken Latta. Only about a half second off there. I'd say that Walker is probably managing that one fairly carefully. just driving to a number, making sure that he keeps around about that 3-second gap. Ladder will be throwing absolutely everything at him. But to give you an idea of it, last lap, Wayne Walker, a 1:32.12, Ken Ladder, a 1:32.11. You don't get much closer than that in matched lap times.
No, those guys are absolutely matched. We see there Jim Caperonis thought about being the last of the late breakers and just decided to put that little weapon back in his holster and settle back into the rhythm. Jared, you made a really good point that there's a number of good passing opportunities here, but in particular, as Jim Caperonis laid on brakes, and I reckon that his eyes were about as big as dinner plates for just a moment there, Jared, when he saw that big Simrigs logo on the back of Phil Manuel's car getting bigger and bigger. But really, Jared, the first turn and this turn 3 are two really classic passing opportunities, and the reason for that is that there's corners before them that have a couple of lines available, but they're also fast enough so you're not grip limited on the way out of either the last turn or the first turn. And so what that means is, one of the big challenges with getting a pass done down here into turn 4 is that you're so grip limited under acceleration out of the hairpin that it's really hard to get a good drive. Whereas if we think about turn 1, you set that up at the last corner, you make sure that you brake at the right point, you make sure that you get to the apex, you get on the throttle early, and you should be able to drive through there faster than the car in front, which absolutely sets you up for the pass at turn 1. And what's really cool is that we then get to see the same thing up at turn 3. So if you're not quite close enough at turn 1, then you can do the same thing again and take another chunk out and get to make that pass up at turn 3.
Chad Vargo comes in to serve that black flag. Sorry, Josh, carry on.
I was just going to say, it's a really enjoyable place to race for those reasons, because it's good fun to have to both be chasing and defending. Basically, it's a
fun track.
Yeah,
all around.
There's a lot of it is. It's just a fun track. I've said it a couple of times tonight, and that is the best way to summarise it. Is that it is just a fun track. Oh, is that a little iRacing thing? I just sort of
what was that?
Smoke out of.
Yeah, that was really unusual. I'm not sure what's happened. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like there's any damage to either of the cars. No one's popped a motor. It wasn't enough smoke for that. That was interesting. I hope that it was just a momentary little desync or something that's just spurred a bit of tyre smoke as the car model's just kind of sorted itself out there. But if that is anything more serious, then one of these guys has potentially something to worry about on the coming downshift. We've seen so many of these motors popped over time. Ken Ladder comes in to serve his second now. Watch Wayne Walker. He's fighting it back. He's being held up a little bit here by Chad Vigar as Vigar moves out of the way, and Walker sends it up the inside of the first left-hander. Walker's come in for his second stop just on the previous lap or so. So it'll be interesting to see now where Ken Ladder actually does come out. He's in the pits right now. Keep your eye on the bottom of the screen there. Ladder is sitting in the pit box. We'll get a time on that pit box in just a moment as he gets back down onto his wheels and gets rolling again. But he'll want to be on his way pretty soon if he wants to stay in touch. There we go, 18.4 now. The question is, where is his pit box in this bay? Pretty far up. He's going to be able to get off the pit limiter pretty early. Keep your eye on this. Where's Wayne Walker? Right alongside. Here we go. As Ken Ladder comes out of the pits, he is ahead of Wayne Walker. A blistering stop from Ken Ladder, and that has absolutely worked in his favour. The little bit of extra time out on track has given him just enough of a gain that he's come out ahead. Now he'll need to hold Wayne Walker behind while he gets back up to temp here. Do you reckon he stayed long enough to get a fresh set of tyres? You'd have to think he'd taken it, wouldn't you?
I should be able to tell you.
18.4 seconds.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So tyres in a supercar are 9 seconds, give or take. So interestingly, and for those playing along at home, depending on where you stop in your pit bay, will absolutely depend on how far
contact
you
there with Hardy on the way through.
Yeah, I don't think that Hardy knew that Ken Ladder was down the inside there, but Ken was not wasting that opportunity. And what you'll now see is Dave Coleman
He's
is
about
to make
big defensive game.
Absolutely hell for Wayne Walker, and that was why that pass was so important to Ken Ladder. And you know, it was a big risk, Jared. There's no doubt about that. He absolutely threw that down the inside, and Hardy legitimately just did not know that.
No, wouldn't have expected him to be coming. No way.
No, absolutely not. And they got away with it. But of course, that bought, you know, gee, what did that? If we look there, that bought 2 seconds for Ken Ladder, and I expect that Dave Coleman's not about to make it easy for anybody who watched the real Supercars at Sandown on the weekend and had the pleasure of watching Mr. Ryan Wood defend his heart out against Will Brown. I think that you're about to see a similar style of, you know, it's for position. Jared, there's absolutely nothing that obligates Dave Coleman to move over, and if he can appropriately position his car so that Ken Ladder gets, you know, even if it's 2 seconds up the road, it's all time that helps.
And look at how early Coleman moved across on that last entry. It wasn't much, but he's absolutely moving towards the apex just a tad earlier to really make that pass unappealing to Wayne Walker. As Walker closes in, Coleman's got a hell of a job up his, basically chasing him at this point, right? To try and defend here against Wayne Walker is going to be really, really tough. Walker is super quick, nice fresh tyres. David Coleman hasn't come in for his second stop yet, so he's not going to have the same kind of pace as Wayne Walker. His only hope here is to be an absolute pest. Watch and see. I reckon Dave Coleman's going to go to the inside of the track here pretty early on. He's not. Okay. I stand correct. I'm really surprised to see this. I would have thought that Coleman would have been defending quite a bit harder than that. But as it stands, Walker's actually gotten through almost comfortably.
Yeah, Dave Coleman may be so wounded that he knows that there's actually nothing to gain, although he is having a crack here at going around the outside, and that will present a challenge. And Poynton absolutely takes the opportunity while the door is open, and unfortunately Coleman finds himself involved. Again, like I said earlier, I really feel sorry for him, because I don't have a good enough view from that camera to know, I guess, who squeezed which way. But yeah, I just feel for the bloke. Unfortunately, he has found himself through a million reasons involved in some stuff.
Yeah,
as we see here with that gap open, Poynton, it just opened the door for him. And yeah, those two cars come together, and it just looks like to me that you know, road closing up, a number of reasons that happens, and those two cars just tripped over each other ever so slightly.
I can't promise I'm not going to start singing a bit of Miley and calling Dave Wrecking Ball from now on, because the amount of stuff that he's found himself caught up in, even when it's not his fault and it's just really unlucky. I can't think of much more appropriate for him as a theme song at the moment. It's not ideal for him, and it's really not. It's not indicative of, you know, a poor approach to racing or anything like that. This season, it's just found him every single race, hasn't it?
Yeah, look, he's turned a magnet on somewhere in his car, unfortunately, and there we see their point and make a big mistake on the way into that corner. As we do now cast our eyes back to Craig Schultz, we see a nice battle forming up here. Wow, the AJR car, who was that, Damon Fisher, absolutely sent it into turn one. That was about as wild as I think you want to be in turn one. I reckon that he had a couple of nervous moments there. But here we see Van der Meulen and Schultz together, teammates. It'll be interesting to see how they go, continuing to move forward and not getting in each other's way.
Yeah, that's always the challenge, right? You've got to be in constant contact and just talking through, okay, what's the game plan here? Who's actually quicker? Who feels like they've got a bit more up the sleeve and under the tyres, given the fact that, you know, Schulz has just really come out a few laps ago on some nice fresh tyres. Van der Meulen made his second stop a whole lot earlier if that telemetry is actually on the money at the moment. So you'd have to think that that Van der Meulen would be at least a little slower. But, you know, Schulz is also that weird little crossover point of these tyres where you do lose that pace and it doesn't come back for another few laps after that. So they might just have to stick together at the moment and make the most of it for a while. David Logsdale's had a big moment in the background. Unfortunately for him, he's been turned around on the exit there and just rolls it back onto the track before he gets going again.
That was a big shame, Jared, and not how he would want his race to go now that we're 27 laps in. But this, you know, I just keep looking over at our race order on the left-hand side of the screen, Jared. There's just battles. There continues to be battles everywhere. Although our top 8 in particular are pretty nicely spread out. But this little battle here is raging on for 8th and 9th position. I don't know that Mark Poynton is going to catch up to these guys. I think he is where he is, and he will be doing everything he can to not fall into the clutches of, you know, Varga and Clifton behind. But this battle, in particular for 13th, is a really healthy little train. It's just rolling around.
Yeah, and keep your eye on the timing tower. That gap from Ken Latta to Wayne Walker has come down a bit. And Latta's probably just, you know, keeping a close eye on it, but Walker is throwing everything at him. He's just about to break through that 2-second barrier, and that will be a bit of a red flag for Ken Latta. He knows he's got about 7 laps left to run here, and that he needs to just hold him off, as we see Dean Logsdale and Andrew Rushworth with Jamie Dyke coming out of the pits right alongside. We're going to find ourselves, I think, in an interesting little moment as we get up to this next turn, but it will depend, of course, on just how brave Jamie Dyke is feeling on those fresh tyres straight out of the pits. Rushworth just sandwiched in the middle. Jamie Dyke gets massive drive out of that turn. We saw it last time, though. It didn't translate to a whole lot of extra speed. This time around, the fresh tyres, I don't know how much of that outer layer of the new rubber is left behind, but I reckon it's a fair amount, because he's gotten huge pace on the exit of that turn, goes up the inside of Rushworth, and now will go after Logsdale.
We now jump back to the battle for 16th, Jared. Another gaggle of cars forming up, ready to assault each other. Is right on cue. Someone will
Brad
see
Hayes into the side of Rick Vigar. Just a little bit of nudging, you know, rubbing's racing, as they say, and in Gen 3 supercars, very rarely is there a more accurate statement. It's one of the great things about these cars. They can take a little bit of a beating from each other without too much of a problem. And I say that with full knowledge that when they do have a problem, it tends to be fairly massive. A big cloud there, as it looks like might have been Darren Walden, who's up the inside there and off the track, just trying desperately to stay out of the way. He's had a really big moment. Let's have a look and see just what happened for him as he came through the section. This is what you were talking about earlier, just the car just doesn't want to grip through those couple of turns. He didn't even get a chance to try and turn it back around to the right there. It just kept turning left as he came down the hill, and Darren Walden is going to have a whole lot of gravel to clean out of the underside of that car after this race.
Mate, I'm sure that Darren, like all other supercars drivers, has plenty of mechanics that will do that for him. He'll drop it back and remind them that if they would have set it up properly, he wouldn't have had that oversteer problem to start with. But no, you're right. That corner I found, I did some practice laps the other night, and I found that these next 2 corners from here really, really challenging. The cars just want to brake sideways, and I actually found it.
They don't look like they should be challenging, right? Like they
don't,
look
but
like
just
just
there.
flowy sort of corners, but yeah, there's that little that little elevation change as you change direction really unsettles the car.
Yeah, and I found that, the smallest amount of steering input that I can possibly give the car, and needing to run the car as far out to the edge of the track on the left as I could on exit, because if you try and hold even the smallest amount of lock on more than you would, ideally, that the car will just burst into wheel spin, and that inside wheel just starts to lock up. Starts to spin as we do now jump forward, jump back to Sean Vandermeulen.
Asking you shall receive, Luke. Luke was keen to see Sean in his jocks, but no such luck for you this evening, mate. He's, I don't know, maybe a little bit cold at his place tonight because he's actually got a shirt on, which is not always the case for Sean Vandermeulen. It's something I do have to check each and every broadcast if he's got that camera turned on before I send it up on screen. I'm sure we all remember the first time that Sean got his camera set up. I'm still not convinced he was wearing anything at all, but he didn't quite
he definitely had fireproof gloves on.
Yeah, well, look, that's fair. I suppose that does count in some way, doesn't it?
Look, he had something on. I also do wonder whether, whilst he was in hospital for that broken wrist that Sean suffered recently, whether the doctors implanted the required bits and bobs to make him feel heat and cold and all of those other things, so that now he does wear appropriate clothing. I'm not sure. Maybe he can let us know next time, or if any of Sean's family and friends are listening, if we can have a bit of an update onto what has caused.
Sean's better half is usually floating around in the chat somewhere. Where's she hiding?
I just
find
it odd, Jared. I'll be honest, I'm going to be open with Frankie that I find it odd that now that we've moved from winter to summer, the amount of clothing is increasing. But anyway, what do I know? What I do know is that Vandermeulen there just put on a really nice pass on, I believe it was Clifton, but unfortunately,
they've all kind of juggled around a bit now,
on
haven't
exit.
they?
Yeah, a little bit slow on exit, and the teammate Schultz just went, you know what, I'm going to move forward. And Sean said, actually, mate, that was my position. There is a little bit of jockeying here going on, and lap 31 or 35, no one wants to have an incident now, but provided these guys get through this all cleanly, they are going to remember this fondly at the end of the race. I don't know if you just noticed then too, Jared, a fantastic shot there, just showing how hard the front brakes on these Gen 3 cars will work as they come down the hill and try and pull these big heavy beasts up.
Yeah, love a bit of rotor glow, don't you? It's I love seeing it, and it's not something you often see with daytime racing on most of the cars in iRacing, but the Gen 3 supercars, they are so heavy and those brakes are working so hard that it is very, very obvious through most of these corners. And if you've been keeping your eye on those front rotors, you'll pretty much pick it up most of the time. You'll just have to take our word for it for some of the spots where we don't have quite the camera angle to show you. But yeah, they get a hell of a workout.
They do, and we all know it. We all know just how hard these guys drag the cars. But it's fun when we get those camera angles that show it. As we now see Lee Logsdale, who has Andrew Rushworth just behind him, and I'm not sure that order is going to change around too much. Jamie Dyke as well in front of those guys. He has a nice little patch of land to himself, and big credit to Jamie. 2 pit stops and a drive-through, still sitting in the top 5. He's having a fantastic race and really has the foot stuck in the loud pedal tonight, because that's pretty impressive. To only, well, I mean, he's like, you look there, Van der Krant's 14 seconds behind Wayne Walker, which is just ludicrous. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
It is. So Jamie Dyke's a fair way behind the front 3, but he's done a fantastic job. There's a couple of guys behind him, Dean Logsdale, Mark Poynton. There's a few names behind him that are reasonably fast, and he's managed to go through the pits in extra time and still be in front of himself. He's having a really good night.
For all of this, something that is well worth calling out, Jason Bentz just comfortably sitting out in front. He is on track here. Ken Ladder's been slowly closing the gap down, but nowhere near quick enough to get there by the time we finish this race, I reckon. So if Ben's going to hold this together, he's going to pick up a very, very nice little race win here. And 2.5 seconds the distance. I think Ken Ladder at this point is going to be watching his mirrors a bit more closely than he is looking forward to that gap, because Wayne Walker's down to 1.2 and closing. Just a couple more laps. It gives Ken Ladder just a little bit of room to not be on the very, very ragged edge of that car's ability. But he's going to have to really send it for the next couple of laps, because he needs to keep Wayne Walker back there to benefit a few people in this championship. Really can't let Walker pick up that extra position, and definitely won't be keen to let him pass easily if he does manage to catch up. The night goes from bad to worse. Ryan Palmer has a bit of damage on the front end, and look, as he tries to rejoin there, not his night at this point.
No, he's had a tough night. I'm not exactly sure what happened. I saw that he was floating around somewhere about the back of the 10, and now he's down in 21st, and probably at risk of falling even further down. I'm sure I'll get a rundown in pretty intricate detail afterwards, and maybe a few additional words than needed on exactly what happened, but it's not been his night. I'll just go back, Jared, to the very start of this race, where I made the comment that Jason Bentz, is a name that flies under the radar. We have seen him a couple of times now get himself out the front and just absolutely head down, bum up, and move forward. And he has done a really good job so far of rewarding my faith in his abilities. I'm interested to see if Walker can steal second place off Ken Ladder, but for now we are paying attention to Coleman and Oosterwald, who are running too wide on the run down the hill to turn 4.
Big
stop at the end of this one.
Either.
No, absolutely not. These guys are racing pretty hard. Big stop here, and they've done a nice job. I think that you've seen there Coleman finally conceded. I do think that he tried to switch back and just wasn't able to dive back down the inside of Oosterwald fast enough, but that pass is done for now. However, I just don't see them giving up. If I know these guys well enough, I reckon that there's another line to this story here, Joe.
Well, they're only going to have one more lap to do it. Jason Bentz has come across the line to collect the white flag, so he is out on that final lap. The gap to Ken Ladder down to only 1.5. The gap back to Wayne Walker down to only a second. So the front three starting to tighten up as they enter this final lap. We'll stick with this battle for the moment, though, because this is absolutely going to be the closest on track, with the possible exception a little further up the track with Mark Point and Stephen Vargas still going back and forth. But Dave Coleman and Oosterwald here from 266 Sim Racing right in amongst it. We'll jump forward, though, because Pointer's up the inside of Varga again into this turn. They're going to be pushing hard here on this final lap. Forces Vargas out to the outside of that corner, and here comes David Coleman looking around the outside again. Caperonis and Vigar right there to pick up the scraps if this falls apart. Coleman squeezes Oosterwald to the inside of the corner. It's not often you see that pay off, but Coleman goes around the outside and picks up that spot. Now Oosterwald doesn't have the drive out of the corner, so he's going to have to watch for Jim Caperonis on the way down the hill, who's now on his way past and looks up the inside. Oosterwald loses 2 spots in a matter of moments, and Rick Vigar right there behind as well, as Jason Bentz has crossed the line to keep that win. Ken Ladder comes home in second, and Wayne Walker in third. Not much in it in the end, but enough to keep these three in that order to the finish. We'll pick up a couple of these battles as they go all the way to the line, because Vargs has the run now on point, and he's going to try and claw back P8 at the death, and he's got just one last turn to do it. Nothing in it at the end here, and of course Point missing that front bar. He's going to have just a little less grip, but it looks like it's going to be enough for him to hold on to that. And a great drive from both of those guys. David Coleman, for his part, really securing that position. Jim Caperonis stays ahead of Oosterwald. Rick Vigar coming home in 17th behind. A cracking finish for this group, and a battle over a number of laps there at the end. Jason Bentz, come on, show us what you've got, mate. Tell us you've got enough fuel left in that thing to fry those rear tyres. We'll wait and see. But he's just slowing it down for the moment. Maybe waiting for some clear space. We'll give him a sec before we cut away. What a race for so many reasons and for so many drivers here tonight. Luke Orman, mate, I have no doubt if you were here tonight it would have been your first race win. But, you know, such is life, I suppose. I guess now we'll never know for sure, will we? A massive, massive finish as we wait on just the last couple of drivers to finish their final laps before we do get the official results. But we can tell you that Jason Bentz has come home in first, Ken Latta in second, Wayne Walker in third, and then Daylight in fourth ahead of Matt Vanderkraan, who finished 17 seconds behind Bentz in the lead in the end. It was a very, very big gap from the front three back, and a lot of that down to the pit strategy tonight, I think, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a couple of different strategies at play tonight, Jared. And I think it was fantastic to see. And what a wonderful night of racing. It's been, it's been a really fun night. Lots of battles, lots of respect for racing, and a couple of small incidents. But these cars, you're always going to get that. I think that really, really good, and what a credit to Jason Bentz. There's a couple of incredibly fast names behind him, and he managed to keep them there.
Yeah, absolutely did. The only question, of course, that remains now is who do we go to first? And I think it makes sense for us to work our way up the grid as we often do. So we might just bring on in Wayne Walker to have a chat to us first of all. Wayne, welcome on into the booth, mate. Great to have you back in here and having another chat to us.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a fun track, isn't it, Red Bull? It looks like a lot of fun from up here, that's for sure.
This is probably one of my most hated tracks.
Of course. Why wouldn't it be? Tell us about it, mate. How was the racing out there tonight, considering?
That was probably two of the toughest races I've had, I reckon. It was pretty much just quali lap every lap.
Yeah, that'll do it. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it's not the sort of sustainable pace you usually see over that kind of race distance. What is it about Red Bull that just doesn't sit well with you? And look, I might be taking notes on Josh's behalf here, just so that he can try and influence a few of the track choices next season, maybe. But what is it that you find least enjoyable about Red Bull?
I don't know. I've never really got along good with this track. Just, I don't know. There's such fine margins for error on parts of the track, and yeah, I just haven't got it right yet.
Well, mate, if getting it wrong looks like this, then it's not too bad of a result, all things considered. It's still going to pick up a decent number of points for your championship defence here tonight. It's looking less and less likely that anyone's going to be able to challenge you at the end of this season, and so very likely to hang on to that number one on the side of the car. Is there... I think we asked you this last week, but I'm going to have to make it a regular feature here. You know, any pending overseas trips, you know, exposure to, I don't know, measles outbreaks that are going on around the place, anything that's going to take you out of these last two rounds?
No, I'll be here both those rounds for sure.
Rain, hail or shine, Wayne Walker will be here to defend that title, and mate, you are very well set up for that. Congratulations on your results this evening, and thanks for stopping by to have a chat to us. Anyone you want to say hello to before you do head on your way?
Yeah, just everyone who helps run the league, race control, you guys for the broadcast. You know, you do an amazing job every week. Yeah, Ken on the win and second, like he drove really good tonight, and Jason as well in the feature. Yeah, he drove good strategy. Yeah, my team, Accelerate Sim Racing, and all my teammates, you know, for all their help as well. Yeah, our sponsors, Abbey Timber, Primal Wheels, Box and Lot Narang, and Modern Deck. And yeah, just all the other competitors as well. It's not possible without them.
It's not a lot of fun racing on your own, is it? Never is.
No, not at all.
Wayne, a great drive as always, mate. Good to see you walk away with some solid results, even at a track you're not a fan of. We'll let you go back to the team, and we'll catch up with you, I'm sure, over the next couple of weeks in some way, shape, or form.
Yep, thank you. I'm happy with our win tonight. So, yep, I'll see you later.
You will. Wayne Walker there takes out third in race number 2. We go now to second place, and Ken Ladder joins us in the booth. G'day, Ken. Good to have you back with us, mate.
Yeah, good to be here.
Well, I tell you what,
couldn't come here last week.
it was there was a lot going on out there tonight, and you have absolutely thrown that car into some pretty tight battles the whole way along. Some really, really entertaining racing from our perspective. How did it feel out there in the cockpit itself?
Well, I was having a blast. It was good. I felt comfortable. I felt quick. And yeah, I just had confidence to put the car where I needed to put it, and I guess it showed.
Yeah, and it looked really, really composed. You know, we saw quite a number of the drivers up that top end just starting to find getting a little bit loose, I suppose, is probably the best term for it with most of the latter half of that race. But you didn't seem to suffer quite so much with yours. Was it just a matter of taking better care of the tyres, or was there something else going on there that helped you along?
Probably just looking after the tyres, making sure I'm flowing the car nicely, and just not using too much brake pressure and stuff like that, you know, and that sort of helps keep the thing together, keep it pointing where I need it to go. So yeah, it's a very flowy type of track here, so you know, you don't really want to be overturning the wheel too much at all. So that's those sorts of tracks.
Well, mate, it certainly paid off for you tonight. A couple of really, really great results for you in terms of the 2 races tonight and the points towards the championship for you as well. A couple rounds left to go. Anything that you're more excited for, less excited for in what we've got left on the calendar here? Sachsenring up next, of course, and then Bathurst to finish it off. I'm expecting you to tell me you love Bathurst, surely.
Yeah, always love Bathurst. Always pretty quick there. And the other track, I've never seen it before. I had to download it, so we'll see.
Well, I'm glad it's not just me, mate, but it's a lot easier from up in the booth than it will be behind the wheels. So probably best that we let you get on and get some practice happening. Anyone you want to say hello to while you're here before we do let you go?
Yeah, well done to Bence. He did what he had to do to lock me out on the race there. And Walker for putting up a good fight tonight. You guys, all the guys in race control, and all the guys at Fishy, and our sponsors for West Automotive Group, Infinity Design, DC Shades, Battery Warehouse, Early Beach, Howland and the Esports, NGS Gaming, Index Design, and yeah, that'll do. Thanks,
mate,
guys.
It's a solid list, and it's well-deserved support. A great result for you tonight. Congratulations again, Ken.
All right, thank you. Cheers.
Ken Ladder takes out second in race number 2 there, as well as the win in race 1. And we go now to the race 2 winner. Jason Bence joins us in the booth. G'day, Jason. Welcome on in, mate. It was a pretty impressive drive from you. Not really much to speak about in that second race. You just got out in front and just ran away with it. How did it feel behind the wheel?
Yeah, it was good. It was like the seas parted at turn 1, and all I had to do was concentrate of what was ahead of me, which wasn't much. I managed to build a little bit of a gap against the guys I thought I'd be racing against, and took on a bit more fuel, and then held them up as much as I could before we did the last stop. Yeah, I felt pretty comfortable, to be honest. A lot better with the tyres than I have been at other tracks. So.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one. You know, we've got some varying opinions on Red Bull as a track. Some love it, some not so much. Where do you stand on it in terms of, you know, the top tracks for a supercar? Does this even make your top 10?
In the supercar, I'm pretty fond in it. I think I've done 4 races here. 2 races were with vets. I've won both of them and won one here in this, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really hate a track that gives you results like that, can you?
Yeah. Other cars? No, I don't really like it, but in the supercar, I seem to go right.
Well, mate, it's played off very, very nicely. It's been a little while, I think, since we last saw a quantum racing winner. I'm trying to think back to whether that'd even be this season. I'm going to
A
have to
week
go
ago.
back and check. It was last week, wasn't it? Jeez, that seems like a lot longer ago, but
I
anyhow.
crossed the line in second, but got given the win.
That's right. That's right. I was looking at going. I'm sure there was something going on, mate. It's been an undisputed result for you tonight. Congratulations on the win. Anyone you want to give a shout out to before we do let you get back to the team and celebrate this one?
Shout out to the main series sponsor SolarGuard. Shout out to Troy at Quantum Tint Solutions and everybody else involved and yourselves for doing the broadcast.
Jason, always a pleasure, mate, to have a chat to you. Thanks for dropping by and congratulations again on your results tonight.
Cheers, guys.
Jason Benz picks up a nice little stack of points there, Josh. I don't know that it'll make a great deal of difference in the championship standings, but I think it's worth us having a bit of a look at. And you know, given that Wayne Walker is certainly not going to drop any significant number of points from his drop round, it's got to be done and dusted at this point, surely.
Yeah, look, you never say never. You know, Saxon Ring will be a track that a lot of people haven't raced at. And Bathurst, anything can happen.
Bathurst finish is always a great way to wrap up a season, isn't it?
Look, it is. Unless you're a driver who's, you know, hunting for a championship win.
Or even a podium spot.
Yeah, and look, he's just, you know, so aware of things that lurk around the corner. It is such a challenging track with so many risks every single lap. I'm probably not prepared to say that nothing can happen, but what I am prepared to say, Jared, is that if things go even remotely normal for Wayne Walker, then he will be fine.
The really interesting battle, though, is going to be for that second through now fifth position. And, of course, these are preliminary points before the drop rounds are reviewed and recalculated. But really, there's a lot less than I think Dean Logsdale or Matt Vanderkran would feel comfortable with between the two of them. And then, of course, Mark Point and now Jason Bent's not too far behind. There's really not going to be a decision on that podium spot until we finish up at Bathurst in a couple of weeks' time. I don't know that I'm ready to call any of those positions at the moment. If Benz continues to drive the way he has been, Josh, there's even a chance that he's going to be in amongst it for a podium, I reckon.
Even Jamie Dyke, mate, it's less than 100 points.
There's not one in it, hey?
No, it's less than 100 points from second to sixth. Yeah, there's a lot of racing to take place with such few points. So, you know, it's going to be a really interesting end to the season.
It absolutely will be. And of course, the place to see it all is right here with Simple Racing Broadcasts and Alliance Sim Racing. A massive thank you, as always, to SolarGuard St. Gobain for their sponsorship of this season, as well as Quantum Tint Solutions, AA West Automotive, Nicol Photography, and of course race control and safety car provided when we need it by 24/7 Sim Services. It's been a fantastic way to cap off this round with Alliance Sim Racing. Brilliant night of racing, some amazing battles and some big moments right throughout it, and this track again proving why it is often one of the great equalisers in any league season. And before we sign off tonight, a massively heartfelt goodbye and thank you to you, Josh, who, of course, steps away after his final commentary gig with ASR. Mate, your energy, your insight, and your passion for racing has been such a massive part of us putting on this ASR broadcast over the past 12 months. I couldn't have done it without you, mate. It's been absolutely fantastic working with you, and I look forward to seeing you out on track for the next couple of weeks, just doing your best to cause havoc on the track with these guys as we wrap up the season.
No, mate, thank you so much. It's been my absolute pleasure. Thank you to everyone at ASR for welcoming me with open arms, and everyone for hanging out on YouTube. I have been listening in, Jared, to a bit of your broadcasts whilst I've been doing some other stuff recently, and I think you're in really good hands with the people that you've got together. So please don't anyone be disappointed that I'm not here. There's far better voices and far better insights coming. I will leave you with a little teaser that I just have a feeling that even if I'm not in the commentary booth next season, you might hear my voice anyway. So if you are going to be too disappointed about me leaving, don't fret too much. But yes, I think this is the end of the road for me and commentating ASR. I've had an absolute ball. Thank you so much for having me along and letting me try something new, Jared. I came into this with absolutely no idea what to do or talk about, and you gave me free rein, and it has been my absolute pleasure. I can't thank you and everyone else enough, and I've said it a couple of times now, but I genuinely mean it. I reckon this is a great way to end tonight's broadcast, mate. So thank you, everyone. I can't wait to be out on track next week at Sachsenring. I hope you've all had a fantastic night hanging out with us here on the Simple Racing broadcast. If you do need to get your racing fix in any other way, there's always something on the Simple channel. And otherwise, we'll be there to see you next week at Sachsenring. Good night, and say hello to your mum for me.